Obsessive-Compulsive Disorder, or OCD, is shown in the media in very stereotypical ways. We usually see this with people wanting to be very tidy, washing their hands all the time, or with people turning a light switch on and off many times in a row. Although these can be accurate presentations of OCD, this video is going to cover some of the ways that we can see OCD that we don't typically see shown in TV shows or movies. As a therapist, OCD is one of the mental disorders that I am most passionate about. So I'm looking forward to us getting a better understanding of OCD in today's video. But first, my name is Keegan. I have a master's degree in counseling. I make videos like this to help you better understand counseling, psychology, and mental health in general. To begin, let's talk about what obsessive-compulsive disorder is. OCD starts with obsessions. According to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition text revision, or the DSM-5-TR, obsessions are unwanted and intrusive images, thoughts, and urges that are recurrent and persistent. And the person experiencing these obsessions will try to suppress, ignore, or neutralize them in some way. Part of the neutralizing and suppression might include the compulsions, which is the next thing to talk about. Compulsions are repetitive behavior or mental acts that the person feels they must do. They serve to reduce or prevent distress and anxiety that come from the obsessions. In some cases, compulsions also may feel as though they must be done to prevent a feared situation or horrible event from occurring. So one way to think about OCD is that the obsessions lead to compulsions, and the compulsions may provide some temporary relief, or they may feel as though they must be done. And so when obsessions start again, compulsions once again happen, and it kind of creates a vicious cycle. Therefore, people with OCD can spend a significant amount of time each day struggling with obsessions and compulsions. As mentioned earlier, there are stereotypical ways that obsessions and compulsions can be shown on TV and in movies. Some of these might be accurate, but there are actually many categories of obsessions and compulsions, and that's what we're going to talk about more next. But first, I want to give a quick note. Know that for people with OCD, they are often bothered by their obsessions and compulsions, which is what makes OCD a disorder. For example, people with OCD might have obsessions about physically hurting other people. But the important thing to know is that they would never do this. In fact, because they don't want to do this, because they don't have any urge to actually physically hurt anyone, that's what gives the obsessions even more power, because they're something the person wouldn't do. I mention this because as we talk about OCD more, specifically obsessions, some of these can include aggressive thoughts, sexual thoughts, or other content that might be unsettling to hear about, but know that the person with OCD does not want to act on these and most likely is experiencing a significant amount of distress because of these thoughts. The other thing to know too is that oftentimes in TV shows and on movies, we will see characters like Detective Monk, whose OCD seems to give him superpowers. Of course, people with OCD can do incredible things in life, but because it's a very distressing disorder that creates a lot of anxiety, people with OCD often struggle greatly with their obsessions and compulsions, and this portrayal of them as a superpower is not always super accurate. All that said, let's get into our first category of obsessions, which are the aggressive type of obsessions. For people with OCD who have aggressive obsessions, these might include fears that they will hurt themselves or other people. It might also be that the person is struggling with horrible or violent imagery that is just stuck in their mind that they can't get rid of. It might also include that the person is struggling with fears that they might steal something, or that they might blurt out obscene or inappropriate words or phrases. Many of you are probably more familiar with the second type of obsessions, which are contamination type obsessions. These might include obsessions that relate to bodily fluids, germs, dirt, environmental contaminants, or chemicals. It could also be that the person is struggling with obsessions related to sticky residue, or fears that they may become contaminated by something, or that they might contaminate other people. The third category are sexual obsessions. These might include unwanted sexual thoughts about strangers, family, or friends. These could also include obsessions related to the person's sexual orientation or gender identity, when there's no reason for them to really question these things. Hoarding obsessions are the fourth category. While OCD is often portrayed in a way where people are very tidy and clean and concerned about germs, hoarding obsessions can go against this in many ways. For people with hoarding obsessions, they might have fears of throwing away or discarding items for fear that they might need them in the future. Hoarding obsessions could also include keeping, picking up, or collecting useless items. The fifth category are obsessions related to religion. These might include thoughts that the person would consider inappropriate based on their religious beliefs, or that we would call blasphemous. And it might also be that the person fears that they will be punished for having these thoughts. For those who have religious type obsessions, they might have concerns about what they'd consider moral, and if they're going against what they might consider moral behavior. This might include concerns about doing what they consider right, fears that they have lied to somebody, or fear that they've cheated someone somehow. The next category is for obsessions related to symmetry or exactness, which is the 6th category. This could include wanting things to be perfectly aligned or wanting things to be perfect, such as their handwriting. One way that I like to think about these two is considering them just so obsessions. That things have to be just so, or that they have to feel right or be right for the person. Otherwise, they might be distressed or feel as though something really terrible is going to happen. The 7th category are somatic obsessions, which are related to health and our body. This could include obsessions that the person has caught a disease, such as AIDS or cancer, even though they've been reassured that they do not have the disease. They might also have fear or concern that a specific body part is hideous, despite people reassuring them that it's not. And then finally, we have the 8th category, which is just a category of miscellaneous obsessions that people might experience. These might include obsessions related to superstitions, feeling as though various information, such as old phone numbers or license plates of cars passing by, must be remembered, or the belief that they have to use a perfect word or say something just in a very right or specific way. A person might also experience obsessions related to neutral mental imagery or thoughts, or these could include nonsense music, sounds, or words that are intrusive. This category also includes obsessions related to colors that the person feels have a specific meaning, or could include lucky or unlucky numbers. Those are the 8 categories of obsessions that are often seen, and some of the examples of things that might fit into those categories, but they can look different from person to person. And keep in mind that people with OCD most likely won't experience all of those obsessions, but they might have obsessions really strongly in 1 or 2 categories, would probably be a more common thing that we'd see. This also applies to compulsions. Not everyone is going to have every compulsion that we talk about, but they might have some or may have more in one category than others. So next we're going to look now at the category of compulsions that we might see. But before we do that, if you're enjoying this video and finding it helpful and informative, please help me out by giving it a like and subscribing. When it comes to compulsions, the first category are related to washing and cleaning. Of course, we often see OCD depicted as people washing their hands over and over again. This can definitely be the case, and for people with a hand washing compulsion, a lot of times they'll have a specific ritual or way that they go about washing their hands. And it's not uncommon for people with OCD who do have hand washing compulsions to have raw, cracked skin on their hands from washing their hands so often. This category could also include compulsions related to showering, bathing, or brushing teeth in specific ways. As with any compulsion, if it's interrupted, the person might have to start over again because they might feel that it has been ruined in some way or might not work because of the interruption. The next category are compulsions related to checking. This could include the person checking to make sure that they did not hurt or kill another person, which can sound kind of odd that you maybe wouldn't know that you hurt or killed somebody, but the way that this can often show up in OCD is the person might hit a bump when they're driving their car, and they may fear that they hit somebody or ran somebody over. So then they'll have to go check that spot to make sure that they did not actually hit and hurt or kill the person. It might be that there weren't even people around when this happened. The obsession does not require people to be around. It's more based on the bump and the fear that it could happen possibly. Checking compulsions could also show up as the person checking to make sure that they didn't hurt themselves in some way, or checking to make sure that they didn't make any mistakes. They might also spend a lot of time or check many times to make sure various appliances around the house have been turned off before they leave. And some people with OCD might check their pulse or something else health related to make sure that they are okay health-wise, or visit the doctor often to be reassured about these things, even though the reassurance from a medical professional might not work and they might think that the doctor maybe missed something. Some compulsions are related to repeating, which is the 3rd category. This might include rereading or rewriting, or repeating a routine a certain number of times. They might also have compulsions related to counting, such as counting the number of tiles on the floor or the ceiling. Or they could do something like counting the number of times that they wash their hands. 4th are compulsions related to ordering and arranging. This could include spending hours arranging items in a specific way, or they might spend time arranging an item until it feels right or is just so. Hoarding and collecting compulsions are next. Generally, these are related to saving various items. It might be things like old newspaper or cans, for example, or picking up various items to satisfy an urge that they might need them at some point. And then finally, there's a category of miscellaneous compulsions. These might include mental rituals such as saying a specific prayer to undo an event or to prevent something from happening, or this could include having to have a good thought to undo a bad thought that they had. Compulsions might also include the person having to tap or touch items, even something dangerous like a hot stove. For some people, their compulsions might include avoiding items that could possibly cause harm, such as scissors or knives. There could also be compulsions related to eating in a very ritualized way, and compulsions related to superstitions would also fit into this category. And then finally, we have compulsions related to hair pulling or trichotillomania. These might include plucking or pulling eyelashes, eyebrows, or hair from the scalp or pubic area. We covered a lot in this video, but there's still so much we could say about OCD. That said, I hope you found this video helpful and informative. Make sure that while you're here, you check out some of the other videos on my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.